All right, welcome in to the fifth chapter. There he is, Brian Jelinek. I'm Dennis Fith, and we're ready to go. What's up, Jelinek?
How you doing, Fith? I'm in a different studio. I'm house sitting a house today, so I got this awesome little gas tank behind me. So I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that. So sweet, being on the road. I like that.
Totally on the road, 2 houses down from my house. So it's our first remote broadcast.
How you doing with the heat?
Thankfully, this house has really nice air, so I actually have a sweatshirt on. It's freezing cold in here. How about you, man? I'm cold.
I go out, I go out in the heat a little bit, and then I come home, and then I go back out there, and I start sweating, and then once I'm in, it's like I don't want to go back out there, man.
I know. It's
going from the cold into the hot, man. I feel for people that have to work out in this. I'm out in the morning just walking around a little bit and drink nice and casual, nothing big time. But man, you get back home, get in the air, and then go back out there. It's like how many times am I going to change my shirt? How many showers am I going to take?
I know. Yeah, I'm already at 2 showers today. I got my car washed this morning at like 9 o'clock, and it was disgustingly hot out then. I felt bad for the dudes at the car wash drying off my car. It just looked miserable outside.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for tuning in. We do this Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to get the podcast rolling. We are going to get some intros going a little bit more. So I'm going to add, sprinkle things in as this is kind of it, man. Summer vacation is over. You look around the bend here, you can make a case that it's all starting up this weekend if you want to. It certainly is following this week. It is on. And that is if you are like everybody else out there, a big-time football fan. That's what we've been waiting for. I mean, it is here. You can sit around counting down the days. We're in the situation where you start counting down the hours now. And oddly enough, as we put up our book of the 5 chapters of things we'll be talking about, you can see it right there. We'll get to some Lions. Matt Stafford had a story that had Jelinek texting me yesterday. On Tuesday's show, somebody brought up Jared Goff or Jimmy G. We'll talk about that and backup quarterbacks in the NFL, a power ranking from Peter Finelli, who you'll see there on the board, who's welcoming everybody in. So he's running things there. We'll see what he came up with the top 32. Where do the Lions backup Tim Boyle rank in the 32? I got to believe it can't be up towards the top. I'm thinking, I don't know what he's got in store, but I didn't do it myself. Like those rankings can be difficult, but my guess is that Boyle's going to be closer to the bottom than he is going to be to the top. Yeah,
no chance Tim Boyle's anywhere near the top. So we're talking what, 33 through 64, correct? No chance.
I hope we don't see any Tim. I hope we see Jared Goff the whole year. I don't want to see any Tim Boyle. I mean, Jared Goff getting hurt and having to go with a Boyle or Blau. I mean, that's when. As much as we sit around, man, I can't wait for the Lions. It's going to be an exciting season. And then you're sitting over there, maybe week 2 or week 3, and we're talking about Tim Boyle being the starter. It's like, whoa.
Ooh.
Wow, man. Hey, that's what fantasy football and gambling are for, I guess.
Exactly.
And when things go south on the Lions, and this year, they're telling you it's going south. So let's start out with talking about the Detroit Lions. They're our very own. They will conclude the preseason tomorrow with a game against the Indianapolis Colts. Dan Campbell told Frank Reich, we're not playing anybody. So we're just going to kind of ease into this thing. Frank Reich was like, all right, we'll do the same thing. We'll just throw our 2s and 3s out there. So you've got that going, and then I'll take a week off. And we're 2 weeks away from the Cowboys and Bucks opening up the NFL season. So all these things where you start seeing right around the corner, the NFL season is 2 weeks away. That means you got fantasy drafts coming up for a lot of people, all those things, myself included. So all of that is exciting. But what, Jelinek, as you think about the Lions, and I'm wrapping up the preseason tomorrow, training camp ended yesterday, and just over 2 weeks on that, September the 5th, I guess it will be. It will be, is that right, September the 5th? No, the following week.
What?
12th. The 12th.
Yes, 12th.
Will be getting going.
Yep.
For real. What are you watching for?
Well, for the Lions, I'm really curious about the wide receivers. We've complained about quarterbacks for the past couple of weeks, and like you talked about, we don't want to see Tim Boyle anywhere near the football field. Hopefully Jared Goff stays healthy. But for the wide receiver room, I mean, I'm feeling good about St. Brown and Quintez Cephas right now. But what do you take with Rashard Perryman and Williams in the wide receiver room? I'm so confused about how Perryman was signed to be the number one, stuff like that, and he's looked terrible during training camp. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with that room because we know it's going to be terrible, but I have no idea how bad it's going to be or how good it can be.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things we find out if Brad Holmes, what he can do. Like, it's the one thing you got to remember as a Lions fan. Their top two wide receivers. They traded Matt Stafford for draft picks, and they got Goff, and they let their top two wide receivers last year.
Yep.
And Marv Jones Jr. is leaving free agency. He went to Jacksonville, and Kenny Golladay, they let him walk. And so he went to the Giants. So their top two pass catchers are gone. So whoever the guys that they're bringing in here, it's not like Tyrell Williams, who looks like he's going to be their number one right now. We saw him a little bit in that first preseason game. We're not going to see him at all tomorrow night in Indy. So they're just going to start the season. If you had to pick a guy that was going to be the number one, you're right. Rashard Perriman was, in competition for that, but his status is up in the air with whatever he's dealing with. It wouldn't be a surprise looking at what those beat writers are saying, and maybe what Dan Campbell said himself is that if Perriman's on the outside looking in. Yeah, that's one wide receiver. The one that we mentioned him on Tuesday, the lacrosse player, Tom Kennedy.
Kennedy.
There's always, and this is going to be, I think this is the story to me, not just of the preseasons, but it's really going to be the story for the Lions over the course of the season. The win-loss record, while it's important, it's going to be important. I think what we're talking about jostling for draft position, not so much of, talking about the Lions, competing in the NFC North or competing obviously for the playoffs. I don't think that's going to be the case, but we're going to be talking about, are they going to be able to find guys and like this AJ Parker, who's an undrafted cornerback out of Kansas State. There's a chance not only that he makes the team, the 53-man roster, but that he's going to be their first, he's going to be their nickel corner. This is the kind of thing that if you're a Lions fan and you're given the benefit of the doubt to a new regime coming in and seeing what they can do, finding guys like AJ Parker, he doesn't have to come in and light the world on fire, but if you can find a nickel back as an undrafted free agent and say, hey, this is somebody that we can depend on, that can be part of the defense when we do want to compete in a year or two. And to your point with the wide receiver is like, maybe if we had to project in 2 or 3 years, which receivers would be part of a group that would be ascending to the playoffs, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown, but after that, I wouldn't feel good about any of them. You want to say Cephas after that, but it's not like Tyrell Williams. I know he's a veteran. He took last year off, and he'll be a number one here, but are really thinking that in 2 or 3 years he's going to be, a big part of the Lions receiving core? No, I don't think so. So that's what it's about. And another one would be Derek Barnes, who actually played well and was getting some attaboys against the Steelers. If you're somebody that tunes into the game tomorrow, you'll be able to maybe check him out. They'll probably have him in there in the early going, something to monitor and say, hey, they're giving this guy a lot of plaudits here in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, we've been blessed with fairly decent receivers for the past few years. I mean, we've had Kenny Galladay as rookie up until last year. We had Marvin Jones. We've had Calvin Johnson in the past. Anquan Boldin played well. So we've had what's the guy's name that I'm forgetting from the Patriots? Danny Amendola. We've had him. We have been blessed with fairly decent receivers. I've never really had to worry about the wide receiver room for the Lions until this year. And I understand that Holmes and Campbell are doing their rebuilding and all that, but man, it's bad. I mean, Tyrell Williams and St. Brown, that's really all I'm looking at right now to be on the field. I mean, Steve Quintez Cephas will be there as well. I still don't know about him. The jury's still out. I mean, he played all right last year. I don't really have a problem with him, but he's not like a go-to 1 or 2 wide receiver. I don't think he ever will be.
Well, we don't know, and that's the thing about this team. Can they find undrafted guys? Can it be any of these other little slot guys that they have brought in? What's it going to be like? I think Pete Finelli making a good point here. It is going to be the TJ show when it comes down to it. And, he would be another one like Hawk. A lot of people look at it in fantasy football terms, like, hey, maybe he's a top 5, or he'll be the 4th guy after the big 3, which is possible. Is he going to be somebody that is looked at after this year, or at some point during this year, where you say, hey, you know what? He really is a George Kittle. He is going to be like a Darren Waller. He is a little Gronk. I mean, when you draft him in the top 10, that's what you're expecting. And now this in his 3rd year, he's shown these flashes, and that's what we're expecting. So, and you know, he is going to be the guy at every opportunity there. So that is the thing.
Do you think that you can see him being like a George Kittle or a Waller or a mini Gronk at some point? Because I think after this year, especially with how the offense is going to struggle, he is going to be basically tight end 1, wide receiver 1. Like, I think he'll get there. I think he'll get that started by the end of the year.
Well, he's showing that progression. Like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know, like, you know, the very first game that he played against the Cardinals, whatever, he had the 157 yards and a couple scores or whatever it was, at least one. And he took off down the sideline. He looked like a game breaker there. I'm still waiting. I'm wanting to see some of that, like, you know, pull away, tight end speed, breakaway. Like right now, I would say he looks more like a safety valve type guy. I want to see him get into the red zone, like to see him running some guys over, and also like to see that, like, he was sold as not just a great pass catcher and somebody that's going to be like George, but also somebody that can maul as a blocking tight end as well. And he hasn't graded out that much, that well when it comes to, you know, blocking. So that'd be another thing that I'd like to see. And, you know, that's it. When you get a top 10 pick and Hockenson in his 3rd year, Jeff Okudah in his 2nd year, these are the other things as the record, as we just look and say, all right, why are we tuning in? Well, we're tuning in to see one, you know, like, are they finding anybody, and who are going to be the guys that are going to be ready to go in the years ahead? You need difference makers, and you do look to those 1st-round picks.
See, you actually
like Okudah.
You brought up a question I was about to ask, because I know coming out of Iowa, he was being picked number 8. We expected him to be this amazing blocking tight end as well, and I'm not sure if I just haven't seen her, if he hasn't been that great, but, like, I don't really know anything about his blocking capabilities as of right now. I mean, I know he's not terrible, I can tell you that, but he's not this all-out amazing blocking tight end. I just haven't really seen that.
Well, it takes time, and he didn't grade out well in his 1st year. And a lot of what he's going to do, it's going to be, you know, dependent also on that offensive line, you know, and you know, he's a part of that. When people talk about, you know, the Lions and what they might have as something that, as a unit that could be better than anybody else in their division, the offensive line, that's where they've spent the most money. That's where they put the most draft capital. And he's a part of that, not just as a pass catcher, but as a blocker as well. Let's look to Case Salty. If I don't have the glasses on, I know for sure that I need to wear the glasses, because 2 weeks ago I was out in the yard and I was like sending some emails, and this is some important emails of like job stuff, and I'm like misspelling guys' names, and I got into the house and I'm like, let me just make sure and check these guys and make sure, and I'm like, whoa, 2 M's in the .com, that got kicked back. My other friend's name. So sorry about that, Case Salty. Lions look extra sorry, and Jared Goff doesn't look like a starter. David Blau looked much better than Goff. Well, the one thing you got to remember, you know, Blau, I don't think that he looked better. I thought that Jared Goff looked fine in the first game that he was out there. If you're expecting him, this is a middle of the road quarterback. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. We know that he went to the Super Bowl, but just like the Lions team, like, yeah, in years past, because anything can happen, and, you know, you're always like behind him. So you start to think, hey, why not us this year? They've told you, why not us this year? And it's the same thing with the quarterback. Like, you know, maybe a different place here when you do that, when it doesn't work in one place. So you go to another team. This is his last chance here. You know, there's that part, even though it's not his last chance, he would get another chance. But I think the people that are following this understand that Jared Goff's not going to light the world on fire. Is there a chance that he could do well enough that the Lions wouldn't draft a quarterback this year? There is.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's one of the big things. If we're making a list of big things to watch this year for the Lions, will Jared Goff play well enough if the Lions have a high enough pick that they won't take a QB? I would say that they're likely to take a QB right now. They haven't played a game yet, so we'll see. But Jared Goff, it's tough on him. He's got the line, but he doesn't have anybody to throw to besides Hawk. I would say one thing about the preseason before we turn the page. There was a Lions beat writer that passed away a few years ago named Tom Kowalski. Have you ever heard of the Killer?
Mm-hmm. I have.
Yeah, well, the Killer, he was a great super member of the media. Like he found the balance in following the team and writing about the team and covering the team, and then also being a fan and then mixing it up where he didn't come off like he was some kind of a fan, and he'd come off like he was sometimes people do as a jerk in the media. It was just he knew, he found his spot, and he was perfect at it. But I didn't know Tom Kowalski all that much. I saw him down at games and things like that, and I would see him at training camp. But I did the first time I'd ever talked with him. It was during the preseason, an hour after a game. I was riding down on the elevator. It was just me and Kowalski riding down. And I looked at the Killer, and all the other times that I saw him, he was wearing a tie, and he did TV work and all this thing.
Yeah.
But he was wearing this Tommy Bahama shirt and these flip-flops and shorts. And I said, wow, Tom, man, you really dressed up for the preseason game. And whatever the amount of time it took to go from there was nobody else in the building, from the top to the bottom, he said, when the NFL starts caring about the preseason, and that this is just a money grab and the Lions are part of it, that's when I'm going to start caring. He's getting heated up with me. That's when I'm going to start caring. That's when I'll wear a tie. So I'm not, it was this protest. Like, I'm not wearing a tie. And I don't remember the rest of the conversation. It's like, all right, Tom, man. It's like, Tom's a principled guy, man. He's not dressing up for any preseason game. And that's when it gets to tomorrow's game. I watched those first two preseason games. I watched 3 quarters against the Steelers before I turned it off. Tomorrow, that final preseason game, I'm not going to go there. And it's the same thing with that Hall of Fame game, and that people are like, I'm going to watch it. It's football. Just so people are like, I'm going to watch it. It's the Lions. People on Friday night and Saturday are going to be like, I don't know why. If you want to just completely waste your time, go ahead and tune in. But for the Killer, I'm going to pour one out for you, Tom. I'm not going to watch that final preseason game. It's a bunch of garbage, and this one's for you. I won't be watching.
Oh, I totally respect the Tommy Bahama shirt and flip-flops going to cover a preseason game, because he's right. Like, the NFL doesn't really care about it. It's just a money grab. However, you got to watch the games, man. Like, what are we doing? You have to watch it. Football's
Not the
back.
final one. Not the final one.
You can absolutely watch. I mean, you have the opportunity to watch Jacob Eason play for the Colts. Like, how would you not want to watch that? Jacob Eason, who might be on our list later, but how can you not watch it? Like, I'm super excited to watch the preseason game tomorrow.
You're not super excited. Don't lie to the people.
I'm not lying to the people.
You shouldn't be super excited. I mean, you can watch, like, if you have absolutely nothing else to do and you really are thinking that watching a couple of reps from Jacob Eason, because usually you can watch a quarter, maybe a series or two, maybe a quarter in the first one, and it used to be maybe a halftime for the second or third one, but the fourth game has no redeeming value. There were a few years ago that the Lions, being the Lions, were famous. They had their starting running back, and it was Steve Mariucci. The Lions had James Stewart as their back, and they ran him 20 times. I don't know. It was something crazy. Maybe it was 10 times in a row. They're in the final preseason game, and they're handing it off to James Stewart up the middle. He's bang, bang. And, he got hurt. He got hurt in that fourth preseason game. No starters. You might see Penei Sewell. You might see somebody else that you recognize. But you want to watch Tim Boyle throw the ball to Tom Kennedy, then, tune in. Be super excited about that.
Me and my friends like to gamble on it, so we're going to be watching preseason football. Doesn't matter if it's the Lions, Colts, or whatever. It's going to be on. We're going to be watching it. It's that simple.
All right, let's turn the page. Good luck.
All right, let's do it. All right, so in Chapter 2, Fith, I texted you out of rage. It's all about the ESPN cover story about Matt Stafford, and this makes me want to puke. I had no idea what it was until I saw it on Twitter, and I immediately texted you, and just that article and the video that also followed it was horrible to watch. I watched it probably 15 times today over just to make sure. And some of the stuff that's in there, like for example, quoting one of the articles, this is what everybody's going to be talking about too, is that I want to have opportunities to make big-time throws in the fourth quarter against really good teams in big moments rather than a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday somewhere. What the hell does that even mean? Like, he played in big games here. He wasn't very good in those big games. What are we doing, Matthew Stafford? Why are we doing this now? It was a nice little graceful transition trade, whatever we're going to call it, to LA, and now this is happening. Like this article is absurd in every way, shape, and form. Do you not agree with me, or what are you doing here?
Yeah, I don't agree with you, but I saw that a lot of people did agree with you. They were upset. They wanted to go back and blast Matt Stafford about, why didn't he say this, or why didn't he say I played in big games in Detroit, and why did he say I didn't get it done? To me, he doesn't have to do any of that. He played here in Detroit for 12 years, and however you want to look at it, his time here, he sucked. He was great. He didn't have the team. It was his fault. It was the Lions' fault. We've been through this, left and right. He's been the most talked about single athlete in my lifetime here in Detroit. So
wait, really quickly, do you find would he be the most polarizing Detroit athlete of all time?
Yes, I think so. He's an enigma, most talked about, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody that everybody, you can find somebody that thinks he's a little bit better than good. You can find somebody who thinks he's a little bit like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And that just depends on, just grabbing two people off the street. So wide ranging opinions on the enigma that's Matt Stafford. But you know what? Matt Stafford was a pro's pro while he was here. When you're talking about how he departed, he didn't put the organization on blast. He could have. A lot of other people could have as well.
He should have.
He did it as well as you could. And the Lions, they did a nice job by moving him and finding his place there. So it was a good separation. I get it. I feel like it's a little bit like a divorce, going back and, you're wishing your ex well, or your ex-girlfriend or something like that. Do you really? Probably not, but you're going to get pissed off at whatever. Matt Stafford doesn't have to table everything that he's going to say right now. It's like, oh, wait a second. I did play in Detroit, but, now I want to play in big games. Like, look, the Rams are a team that a lot of people are picking to go to the Super Bowl. Nobody ever talked about the Lions going to the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford doesn't have to, and everything that he says, like, I played some playoff games and I didn't get it done. Let me put that to a side. Now I'm really looking forward to going deep in the playoffs. He's done everything that he needed to do in Detroit and talk about him and say everything that he did. He was the perfect professional when it came down to how he treated the organization and moving on. So I don't need to hammer him on anything that he's saying here. Let's see what he does in LA. Now, if it was just today and you say, what do you hope happens with the Rams? As I watched some of that and as I read about 75% of the story, I found myself thinking, you know what? I'm getting a little sentimental. I saw, a little bit of, what Kelly Stafford had to say. I root for the Stafford. So I'm thinking, you know what? It would be nice for them to go on a little bit of a run and it would be nice for him in the postseason. But, if we're just talking about it now, and I know that could shape me because we're emotional people. And, I might root for Stafford when it comes down to it. But as it sits right now, I don't want the Rams to have success this year. I would rather have the Lions. You could tell me that the Lions could have a top 10. It's unlikely. But if everything fell apart for the Rams, and you could tell me that the Lions could have a top 10 pick in them, whatever, they might have a top 5 pick with their own record. Yeah, I'll take that. I don't necessarily want to see Matt Stafford in the Super Bowl and the Lions have that 30th pick. There's a lot of people that don't care about the draft pick. A lot of people that, just love themselves some Matt Stafford and, it's going to be so fresh that they'll have another team to root for. But, that's not me. But he's on to a new team. And I don't want to say I wish him well because the draft compensation is tied exactly to how they're doing it. I'm not actually wishing him well. I'm wishing him, go ahead and do it. But I think he would understand himself. Like, hey, Matt, sorry. I hope you guys finish. I hope you guys finish in the bottom 10.
God, I just feel like that Matt Stafford, ever since he's been, I understand that playing for the Lions is terrible in every way, shape, and form. It's basically a death sentence for most people's careers, stuff like that. I get it. But Matt Stafford was treated like a very better than average quarterback. Just okay, not great. He was good. And now that he's in LA, he's all of a sudden this amazing top 3 quarterback, which I just don't understand at all. In big games, he hasn't showed up. He's 0-3 in the playoffs. He has 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in the playoffs. Like he failed in big games. And I can't remember what year it was, but the Lions had to win 1 out of 3 to win the division. And they laid eggs in all 3 of those games. Do you remember what year that was?
Yeah, it was like 28, the year that he had all those great comebacks and everything. The 8 or 9 comebacks in the fourth quarter, that was the season. And the last 3 games were against the Cowboys and the Giants and
the
Packers, and they lost all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, he hurt his thumb in the previous game against the Bears in the first quarter. Yeah, look, the thing about him being a top 3 quarterback, I haven't actually seen that myself. But when you take a guy that was with the Lions and not a great supporting cast, and now looked at as a playoff team right around 10, and then you put him on a Rams team with Sean McVay that not too long ago went to the Super Bowl and had the number 1 offense in the league, and they've got the number 1 defense, and they're looked at as a lot of people as a Super Bowl pick. That is going to bump up your prospects a little bit. Putting Matt Stafford close to 5, if you're ranking the quarterbacks, I still have him around 10, not at 5. I'm not as uber high on the national media on him, but it's completely understandable why you're going to raise your profile. When you're around great players and a team that is looked at as a Super Bowl team, that's the one bad thing about the Lions. People are always like, why not with the Lions? Well, the Lions are not looked at as a team like that. They're looked at as a bottom dweller.
No, I totally understand that. I get that completely. But I know that football's a team sport, but he just hasn't been good. He's 8-67 lifetime against teams above 500, went 0-6 in 2020 against teams that were 500. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I just don't get why people are all of a sudden, I know, like you said, the Rams have basically the number 1 offense, basically the number 1 defense, or they do have the number 1 defense. I get how people could say, like, wow, they have a really good shot with Matt Stafford, but it's not like, it almost feels like people are guaranteeing that they're going to go and win the Super Bowl. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Here's the part that it's a great transition. It's a great tease/transition for getting into chapter 3, and we'll get to some of the feedback here. And that takes us to chapter 3, which is something that was brought up on Tuesday. Somebody texted in and said, hey, would you rather have Jimmy Garoppolo, the San Francisco 49ers quarterback, or would you like to have Jared Goff, who the Lions traded for from the Rams? And, your point here is like, why is everybody getting all excited about Matt Stafford? We've seen some quarterbacks. I saw just here during the preseason, I saw Joe Flacco playing quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff. What do all 3 of those quarterbacks have in common? All 3 of those quarterbacks have been to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And in Flacco's case, he won the Super Bowl. And in Jimmy G's case, against the Kansas City Chiefs just 2-3 years ago, he was sitting down there with about 90 seconds to go, and if he can hit one pass, San Francisco's in the driver's seat to win the Super Bowl. Do we got that video?
We got it. Let's put it up.
Go to the tape.
Garoppolo airs it out. Sanders downfield is overthrown.
So what? There's 1:34 to play. So, all right, you've got Mahomes on the other side. I don't know what the timeout situation. So, yeah, that's a lot of time for Patrick Mahomes. Maybe Mahomes would have went right down the field and they'd have scored, and it would have just been, and Mahomes is great. But maybe, they held him to the field goal. He went into overtime. It's at least a 50-50 chance that he's going to win the Super Bowl if he connects on one pass. And then if you get minted, like your Joe Flacco, who, by the way, when he won the Super Bowl, he, in the playoffs, his touchdown to interception ratio, 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And, that's where you put Matt Stafford. You say, look at these guys. if you could surround him with everything, if you give him a number one defense, which the Rams have, you give him a good offensive line, the running backs, I know they just got Sony Michel, after the Cam Akers injury, they looked like they were set there. I was just looking at their wide receiving core today. Besides Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, Deshaun Jackson is out.
Wow.
Tutu Atwell has had a good camp. The slim wideout from Louisville, and there's another guy in there as well that I looked at. It's like, yeah, you know what? He's not chopped liver. Gerald Everett, they're a tight end. That's a formidable offense. Sean McVay, you have everything around the quarterback. It's hard to do. You would rather have an elite quarterback and like Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to have one of those guys, but you can get it done with serviceable quarterbacks, or maybe a little bit more than serviceable. The thing about Stafford is why I don't think, I don't know if he can do, I think he's a better quarterback than Joe Flacco, but can Matt Stafford go into a playoff and go 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions?
No, absolutely not.
I'm not ready to say that. And, Jared Goff managed his team there, but it was only 2-3 years ago. The Rams offense was the best offense in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were right behind the Chiefs, who had one of the best offenses ever. I mean, and he was the guy running the show there.
Mm-hmm.
I have my doubts about Matt Stafford being able to go there and do all that. But the question was, would you rather have Jimmy Garoppolo, or if, the Lions, which I guess you would rather have him traded to San Francisco, which was in play, would you rather have Jimmy G or Jared Goff as we sit here?
Ooh, that's tough. I really do feel like they're almost the same person. I would have to tip my hand to Goff just a little bit more. Goff has more experience. He's less injury prone. I can't remember who's older though. That's the one thing I had an issue with that I meant to look up and I forgot. Maybe Pete can look that up for us. But
I would guess that Jimmy G's 28 and what's Goff 26?
Probably somewhere around there, right? But at the end of the day, they're both middle tier quarterbacks. I don't know, anywhere between 15 and 20 in the league. But I would take Jared Goff. I feel like he's better out of the pocket, can create more with his feet, and the overall better athlete. Once Jimmy G gets out of the pocket, he's dead meat. He's slow. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Give me Goff.
Yeah, I think I would take Jimmy G slightly over Jared Goff, although Goff has done it with the offense and at the controls there. I think and I know Garoppolo did, take his team to the Super Bowl and is going to get bounced at some point, maybe even before game one. But I like Jimmy G just slightly over Goff. I think that he's I think he's better under fire than. I don't think either of them are great without a clean pocket, but I think Garoppolo is slightly better. I mean, that's the hard part about Goff. You give him the perfect snap and all day to throw, he can deliver a nice football. And it's kind of the same thing for Garoppolo, but I think Garoppolo is just a little bit better when it comes down to that. Jimmy G, 29, Goff, 28. So I was a year off on that. So Jimmy G, a little bit older. He spent all those years behind Tom Brady there in New England.
I feel better with Jared Goff rolling out of the pocket, though. I think more can happen. I think he's a better athlete than Jimmy G.
Okay. Let's go. That's
Okay.
My opinion. There are probably a lot of people that agree with you. That's good. Paul W. asking a fantasy football question. Would you rather have Darren Waller, starting tight end for Vegas, Devontae Smith, the rookie for the Eagles, or Hawk for a flex position, full point per reception? This one's easy to me. You want to take it? What would you say?
For the flex position for full PPR between Waller, Devontae Smith, and Hawk, I would probably go with Hawk just for the fact that he's going to be the most targeted receiver on the Lions. It's that simple. Jared Goff doesn't throw deep balls. Hawk can just run out 5-10 yards and catch a pass. Give me Hawk all day.
Yeah, I would go with Darren Waller. I think there's 3 great tight ends in fantasy football this year, and Kelsey and Kittle and Darren Waller. And I'll put Darren Waller number 2 on that list over Kittle. The way that he's going, and they don't have anybody. You only talk about Ruggs and whatever else they have in Vegas, but the amount of targets, the percentage of the share of the offense, Darren Waller is getting the ball. He's throwing up third. And Darren Waller, man, he could be the best out of that. Now Hawk's right behind him and could be in the top 5, But I like Waller more as I was talking about the explosion that I'm hoping to see from Hawk. I think he will get a lot of catches and everything. But Darren Waller, man, he can go up top. He can take the top off of defense as a tight end. I'm not sure Hawk can do that yet. So I would go with Waller. I think that's an easy pick. Run up there and go with Darren Waller if you can, Paul. That would be my suggestion.
I like Darren Waller a lot. Darren Waller's going to have 5 or 6 games where he just goes off. But there's a few weeks in a row where he does absolutely nothing. So, and I don't really trust David Carr or Derek Carr that much. I just don't.
I gotta tell you, this Peter's better than their last intern, man. You ask him a question or he's just talking about things. The guy's got the information up there. It was 2017, the Lions finishing 0-3, and then they went on and lost 26-6 to Seattle. You know what? That playoff game, I was going to say for whatever reason, it's not for whatever reason, that game still irks me. Sometimes I get into a situation where, because where we're at here, I remember going out with friends and watching that playoff game, and the Lions wide receivers across the board, all of them, Golden Tate, just dropping easy passes right off, bouncing it off of them. They didn't score a touchdown in that game. That was one of the most miserable experiences I've ever had as somebody that's watched the Detroit Lions over the years. The miserable game, get to the playoffs, and then play like that. I mean, what a joke.
That wasn't the game where the ball was punched out of the end zone, was it? Was that the same football game?
They played Seattle. I think that was the 2015 season where they played them on a Sunday night. That you're talking about. A tip out of the back of the end zone. There we go. We're ready to move on.
All right, let's do it. So it's the second half of chapter 3, and we're going to do a little power ranking of backup quarterbacks. I can put up the list right here. This is according to our intern, Pete Finelli, so let's find out what he thinks. Let's do it. So
yeah, the one thing we did is we were talking about backups and where the Lions backup would rank on a list of the top 32. And you can see up there, let's just see if I agree with if there's any thing that I think that jumps out, or I think Peter might be missing it here.
Taysom Hill at 7 is ridiculous. That's absolutely that's no go for me.
Can you take the chapter 3 part down there so I can see the rest of the list there? You
got it.
Look at you. Not bad.
That's Mason Rudolph at 16.
Yeah, McCoy.
Mike Glenn.
Looking at, you know what? I don't have any problems with those the top 10 that I'm looking at. You know, you might not like Taysom Hill. Do you know what? Sean Payton really likes Taysom Hill. And can you put the list back up there? Not only does he get back up and as a backup, I mean, he plays during the game. Maybe you could put him a little bit farther down that list, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest Trubisky fan, but, you know, I haven't seen enough of Jordan Love. We have seen Gardner Minshew. You know, Mon's pretty high there as a rookie QB. Where was he picked? I might put Heineke in front of him and Mason Rudolph. A little high on Kellen Mond. But when I start looking towards the back half of this, there's Mr. Moneyman, the clipboard, Chase Daniels, started 5 games. He's made $40 million in the NFL. John Wolford, the guy who started over our quarterback in the playoffs. You know, PJ Walker isn't that bad. I might put him up there a little bit higher. I like what I've seen in limited reps from him. Yeah, but the rest of these guys, I've never even heard of Mike White.
I haven't either.
And who's the 32nd? Who's Mr. Irrelevant on that list? It's good for the Titans. We can't even see it. I like it.
I think maybe James Woodside or something like that. Let me see
here. Hey, you know what, Tim?
Logan Woodside. Logan Woodside.
I would have guessed he would have been a linebacker if you'd have just thrown that out there.
I forgot Geno Smith existed. Like, I did not know that guy was still in the league. But I know Cooper Rush is a Central Michigan grad, right? Got drafted. I'm not sure if he got drafted or got picked up as a as a non-drafted free agent. I'm not really sure. But overall, I like the list. I think Taysom Hill is way too high. And
I disagree. I thought Kellen Mond, I would have dropped him a little bit and had Heineke a little bit higher and maybe PJ Walker. But other than that, I thought it was a solid job there. Solid job. There's a lot of good backups when it comes down to it. You look at that top 10, and the thing is I think we all feel like Fields, Lance, and Jones could be playing by week 5 or 6, and however it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And you might in that case say, hey, Brissett's the best guy to have up there at that point. But the guys that are starting, Keenum's done it before.
Keenum has done it.
Yeah, Hill's an interesting one. Mariota, maybe you could put Mariota a little bit higher and drop down Hill. I think Hill's a little bit better. I'm not sure why you don't like him, because what he has shown here is that in the times that he's been in there, he doesn't throw the ball enough to Alvin Kamara. I could see if that was your fantasy back that you didn't like how he didn't check down enough. But I think as a backup, he's what I'm looking for is a backup, not somebody that I think is going to take over the reins and be some kind of star quarterback. I'm looking for somebody that can come in a quarter and run the offense. I'm looking for somebody that can play a game or two, and I think Taysom Hill's pretty good at being able to do that.
I like Taysom Hill as an offensive weapon. I just hate calling him a quarterback. It's just, I don't know, just the player. There's something, I'm sure you have an irrational hatred of a few players out around the NFL or any sport to begin with, and Taysom Hill is one of those guys for me. I just absolutely hate him. I can't really explain why. I just don't like the guy. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a solid quarterback to like run an option or something like that or hand the ball off, but throwing the ball, absolutely not.
Yeah, we explained it. Irrational hate is somebody for whatever reason. I could buy that.
Yeah,
I don't have many. Sometimes maybe when I'm gambling on somebody and it's a player or something, I could put him in that category.
You gotta have somebody.
I can see how those things can happen.
Him and Marion Hossa. I cannot stand Marion Hossa.
Yeah, I don't like the Packers overall, really anybody in their organization, but, that's directly related to the Lions, and it's kind of the same thing with the Vikings and the Bears. I mean, and I grew up as a Cowboy fan, so I didn't like the Redskins or football team and or the Eagles or Giants. I mean, I didn't like any of those teams. Then the Cowboys would always lose to or not always, but they had some very painful losses to the 49ers and the Rams. So I didn't really like those teams either. So, but individual players, I don't know if I could come up with one. I'll work on that.
Yeah.
Players that I don't like.
That would be a good segment for some time during the NFL season. It's just talking about a couple guys we just can't stand. Taysom Hill's one of them. It's that simple. Can't explain why. Just don't like him. You're
not the only one. I have a friend who he hates every time he's always texting me like, I'm tired of them calling him a Swiss Army knife. And I'm like, all right.
Like, exactly.
I mean, he texts me every time. I'm like, I don't know why you get so upset about them. Like, everybody calls him that. You called him that earlier, didn't you? Or
what's the guy's name? Those Red Zone, Scott Hansen. I always hear him say that Swiss Army knife. I'm like I love Scott Hansen. He's a beautiful man. Like, I love Red Zone. I just hate when he says stuff like that. I cannot stand when people say the Swiss Army knife thing. It pisses me off.
Okay, good enough with me.
Let's move on to Chapter 4. All right, in Chapter 4, Dennis, do you know what week it is in college football? It is week 0. It's the best time of the year. We got football starting up. And how do you feel about going in the college football season coming up?
Well, I feel like I've never been in a desert where I've been out there and I'm looking at some sort of oasis or anything, but I have struggled through summers to get to the start or the finish line, however you want to look at it. And, we've made it. We're so close. And, week 0, I like how they've put week 0 in. I only need one game, and I looked at the menu. I don't know, there's 4 or 5 games, but there is one game, and it's going to take place 1 o'clock on Saturday, and it's going to be Scott Frost's Nebraska team. There it is. They are going to be in Champaign taking on Illinois. I'm all about that. I will watch that. I don't know about any of the rest of those games there.
Nah.
But I'm going to tune in to watch Nebraska and Illinois in its entirety. And then, starting on Thursday, I mean, it's on. I mean, if you love football, and everybody I know loves football, you go from Ohio State, Minnesota on Thursday. You got the fifth chapter at 7 o'clock. Then you got Ohio State, Minnesota. EMU plays at 7 o'clock against a team that I've never heard of from St. Francis in Pennsylvania. Maybe Peter knows about that team. But I don't know if they're going to be on. Maybe they'll be like maybe somewhere online or something I can watch a quarter or two. I'd like to. I'm an EMU alum, so checking out the Eagles and everything, seeing what they look like would be nice. But then 9 o'clock, it's Michigan State Northwestern. That's a week from tomorrow. And then Saturday, things are looking pretty good for me, heading down actually to the game. So we'll see how that ends up going down. I haven't been to a game since I went to a Michigan State hockey game 15 months ago or something.
The last sporting event I've been to was the Quick Lane Bowl, EMU and Pitt. That's the last sporting event I think I've been to. I'm not sure. I don't think I went to a Tigers game a couple summers ago.
Is that the one that Eastern at the end Glass threw a punch or something and got thrown out?
That's exactly the game, yeah. So now me and my friends make the Quick Lane Bowl a tradition every year, so we go to that. But I like you, I'm also really looking forward to the Nebraska-Illinois game. I can't stand Scott Frost. I think he's a fraud of a coach. Nebraska's laying 7 points against Illinois. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I want Illinois to cover. I would love to see that because I like Brett Bielema because they talk about him on Barstool all the time. I think the guy's hilarious. But, yeah, I just want Illinois to be better and make the Big Ten West a little bit more relevant. I found some rankings from sportingnews.com and said for the West, the projections were Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern, Minnesota, Nebraska, Purdue, and then Illinois. Do you think there's room for change anywhere in there or not?
Yeah, I think Illinois could pull the upset. I mean, Martinez quarterback for Nebraska there, so I get the 7 points. But Illinois got they've got a run first QB that they're going to be starting in that game. That I've heard people, comparing him to Lamar Jackson or whatever else. So hey, you know what? You're going to draw some comparisons on Lamar Jackson. I'm going to check it out, see what's going to go on there. We'll see. Nebraska, it's not like I wouldn't feel good betting Nebraska, and going with the home team always seems like a pretty good you feel comfortable at least going in, especially if you're getting some points in an opener where both teams are going to be up in the air. You do have the experience though on the side of the signal caller for Nebraska. That's probably where those 7 points come in. But yeah, you know what? There's worse bets that you can make than going. I'm glad you brought up Adrian Martinez because that guy has to be like 45 years old at this point. I feel like he's been in Nebraska forever. And I'm just weird. It's so weird seeing him play. I mean, how many years has he been there now? This has to be his, fifth year, sixth year? Well, yeah. I mean, you get the extra bump, from last year. And, when you play as a true freshman, it sometimes feels like that. So, yeah, he's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
the exciting part, week 0, get it going, get football this Saturday. We made it. It's exciting.
Give me Illinois to cover that 7 points. I feel good about that.
All right. Peter making a point here. Let's see what he's saying. Talking about Taysom Hill as a fantasy tight end. When we were in it, my league wasn't allowing for any Taysom Hill tight end position. I know that was argued about a little bit in the fantasy football world, but any commissioner that was worth anything would look at that and would have been like, no.
Absolutely not, yeah.
You can't make that move.
See, it was suspect. Last year, our commissioner picked Taysom Hill up and played him as a tight end. Everybody complained, and that was a big issue for our league last year and over the offseason.
That should have been a point of contention. That's not being a good commissioner. That's not good fantasy football.
No, it's not good fantasy football. It's not.
No. Did he get ruled down, or did he get to play him? He was the commissioner.
Yeah, he was the commissioner, so he just played him.
What I would have done if I was the commissioner, I would have said, hey, what does everybody think? Let's have a quick vote on this before I put him in. And,
Dennis
would have ruled.
Dennis Fith, the commissioner of the people.
Yeah, that's fun. We put it up for a vote, man. Let's go. Paul with a fantasy football question. Even though Rutgers seems never good at football this year, they will have a good team.
I think they'll be solid. I don't think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be all right. I don't think they're going to finish last in the East this year, though. That's my bold prediction for the Big Ten.
Who's going to finish last? Michigan State?
Possibly Michigan State, Maryland, maybe. I would love to see U of M do it, but that's not going to happen.
Maryland's a hard team to pick.
Maryland,
Times, they got Talia Tungavailoa there, and as soon as I like them, I was behind them and I watched them, and I think they played Minnesota, and I got to be like 45-3. I'm like, but then they came out and played really well. So they're real, but I think Mike Loxley, he's getting his recruits in there.
Mm-hmm.
They're the team that's most volatile. I think they could. In fact, I have Maryland beating Michigan this year as I look at my own rankings and predictions. And so I know a lot of people have Michigan getting tripped up maybe to go to Nebraska, but I got that. I have them dropping their last 3 games at Penn State, at Maryland, and against Ohio State. But things will be looking pretty good going into that Penn State game. But I think the wheels are going to come off for the Wolverines there. Yeah, I would still put Rutgers unless it's going to be Michigan State, but Maryland could finish down there as well. So
I could see it, but I don't think it's very likely. I mean, like you said, Maryland can be really good or terrible all in the same season, so you never really know.
Yeah, maybe Rutgers. We saw them last year. It's not like as a Michigan fan, I can say, oh yeah, that's an easy one. Michigan went to a triple overtime.
Yep.
To beat Rutgers. So. And State duped me because they started out with Rutgers, and I thought that was going to be their only win. They coughed it up like 5 times. They look like the worst football team that I've ever seen. It had me, who doesn't get overconfident and doesn't play every week to week, but it was the opener, and I thought State is such a joke that, Mel Tucker doesn't know anybody on his team, so because of COVID, and he got in there late. State's going to lose every game by 50. So I had Michigan beating them by like 100-0. Of course, we all know what happened. I
did too. I remember writing one of my first articles that was published was about that, just saying, if Michigan forgets how to play football, they're going to lose the game. But that take aged really well, so that's great.
Yeah,
really happy about that.
Print that one out and put that story up on the wall.
I have it framed in my room, man, just reminding me about how I can never make predictions like that again.
You got to make a first one. So
you always have to make a first one.
All right, so we're moving on to the 5th chapter.
Yeah, and I want to throw a little bit of gambling in before we go into story time. But yeah, like I said in the previous chapter, I think Illinois is going to cover. And then what I researched for the Michigan State game and a Northwestern game is that Michigan State was a 3-point dog against Northwestern. So let's go with the over 45 points next week, as well as covering the 3. So I feel good about that.
That line's really come down. I mean, it started out at 6.5. Northwestern's lost 2 big-time players there in fall camp. So that's probably what's happened there. Yeah, for me, we were talking about the alliance, but I don't think there's really anything. I think everybody's knows what's going on here. It's just like they had to have an answer. This is something that they did to position themselves so they can draw it out, and so that's it. But the Tigers, I'm glad. It would have been nice if they would have won the game. Somebody sent me a picture from. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the Tigers. It would have been nice if they'd have won the extra inning game against the Cardinals, but
yeah.
The way things that are going here, they did such a nice job to get us to football. I mean, it's what AJ Hinch and company did in Miguel Cabrera, with the 500 thing, the way they're taking us right here and handing it off. It's just been something that I did not expect. And I liked, and with these remaining days until football starts, once football starts, man, they're really going to take a back seat. And, but I'll be geared up for next year. And I did see, I was looking at The Athletic today, and Jim Bowden, the former GM, he did his top 50 rankings of minor league players for next year. And so I clicked on it right before the show started, and the Tiger fans would like his rankings. Jim Bowden had the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, Spencer Torkelson.
Really?
Number 1. Number 2, I think he'd been Bobby Witt Jr. For 3 was somebody from the Orioles. Number 4, Riley Green from the Detroit Tigers. 2 of the top 4, including the number 1 overall prospect, Torque and Green. at some point seeing those guys next year. Biggie getting to 3,000, a staff that you can look at, money that they're going to spend maybe and go out and get a big time shortstop. So,
Trevor Story, man. I feel really good about that.
Correa, $330 million. Let's go.
Oh, God.
So that stuff's good, man. That stuff's got an up arrow next to the Tigers. That's my story.
Yeah. Do you think we could see either Green or Torkelson make the ball club out of camp next year or not?
I think so. I think they want to keep the clock and keep them under contract for additional year, how many ever games. I know people start talking about super fives or super twos. I think it's super twos that they talk about, but I think the way to go here is that that they sit them out for a certain amount of games, whatever it is, 12 games before they come up. Most teams have done that. So I think that at that point, that's when we'll see him. So I don't think we'll see him out of camp.
Fifth, one last thing before we go. My kickball team is in the playoffs tomorrow, so we need wins for kickball tomorrow to make it to the championship game.
Good luck.
2 wins.
No drinking during the game, and that should change things up. Maybe make you guys a little bit better.
It's usually beer league, but this week we're going stone cold sober to play the game.
Like, there you go. If you want to win a championship, you got to make some sacrifices.
We are. That's exactly what we're doing.
Well, good luck to you. Thanks to Peter Finelli. He did a good job here and coming up with the list and running everything on the chat. Maybe we'll see his video. We'll maybe another week football start and everything else. I know Penn State's got a real big game coming up in week 1, so maybe next Thursday that might be his debut. Penn State, Wisconsin. We'll have him preview that game. And for Brian Jelinek, I'm Dennis Fithian. Thanks for watching, and we will talk with you on Tuesday, everybody. Good night, and thanks for watching. And hit the